Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Arcade Tirade, the podcast that's all about video games. I'm your host, Zuve. For the week, Phantom Outlaw will not be with us. This is for the episode of Monday, January 28th, 2019. Here we go. So first up, just want everybody to know, with the way that the schedule is looking like from here on out, every other weekend is going to be Phantom Outlaw and myself, and every week between that will just be yours truly, but I'll be sure to keep things going with some kind of subject to talk about, whether it's just news or whatever crazy thing comes to my head. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. So, this brings to mind, I'd just like to talk for a minute about myself as a gamer and the history of it and where I am and where I'm going. So, as it's pretty clear to anyone who's been listening to this show for a few episodes now, I have a pretty strong tie with one brand, of course, Nintendo, though I do also like to talk about other consoles. It's not like I haven't owned a PlayStation 1, PS2, Xbox 360, a Sega Genesis. That's just, Nintendo's where my heart is for a lot of the time. Though I don't hesitate to criticize them if I have issues with them. I just prefer the console. They make good games. They make strong franchises with popular characters, good stories, good gameplay. They always they put fun first. And I'm just not as big into... when I look at some of the other big franchises like Xbox, the biggest thing... I have some titles, some franchises I like here and there, but I just don't see enough to really catch my interest. I'm sure if I gathered all the games in the library together and really, analyzed it, I probably would have bought more. But, well, it also brings to mind something else I wanted to say. Just this weekend, I went online and bought a copy of Earthbound. Of course, Earthbound. Oh no, he's going to talk about Earthbound again. I bought a physical copy, because I sold mine years ago when rent and bills, times were tough. But I wanted a copy again, so I forked out the $125 to get a decent copy. I also bought a copy of Final Fantasy 3 or 6 for the SNES, depending on who you ask. And I may also be acquiring a copy of Secret of Mana shortly, with a guidebook and an instruction manual to boot, which is pretty cool. But all of this plays into what I've decided recently. I want to start rebuilding my video game collection. I used to have a decent amount of games on 4th, 5th generation consoles, all the way up to GameCube. Wii, even a couple titles, but I didn't care as much as a collector. I didn't look at it like a collector at that point. I just wanted to play the games. But now looking back, thinking about it, I have some regrets. But what I wanted to do was get a couple of the pricier titles out of the way. Obviously, I know that there are plenty more that are way higher up there than $125. I still got to get Chrono Trigger. And I mean, if we're gonna go, I'd really like to do NES and SNES, because that's where my heart is. Those are my two big consoles, and track and field. When you think of NES, if you want a complete collection, I'm not gonna get a complete collection, but I would like a considerable size collection. And who knows? Maybe I'll expand to Genesis, PlayStation 1, because people from my generation, I was born in '87. You don't look at PlayStation, at least I don't look at PlayStation 1 as a classic, but it has become that. I mean, in terms of antiquity, age. Those consoles of that generation now are in the black and white, I mean, by comparison of today. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say on that subject. Current events. Again, I don't get too much into politics, but this is a big story right now. Of course, the shutdown was recently ended. Trump signed a stopgap bill for 3 weeks, so it's only a temporary situation. But I'm just really happy for the 800,000 or so odd government employees who will be paid again. I don't know if that's retroactively or not. I haven't looked at the finer details, but I'm just happy that we have things settled, at least for the time being. Trump doesn't get his wall as of yet, but who knows, that could change down the line. Speaking of big stories, on to the world of video games and video game related. Recently, the popular YouTube channel of Machinima just completely fucking disappeared. Machinima, of course, is one of the biggest video game YouTube channels and related companies on the internet ever. I thought that they were the biggest video game related YouTube channel, actually, the number one. I watched certain programs on it from time to time. I enjoyed. I wasn't really big into the channel, but I understand. I know a lot of people who were. So, I read in some sources saying that the videos were deleted, but I've read more so that they were set to private, which would make more sense. So they weren't destroyed. They weren't deleted necessarily from YouTube. It would make sense because it seems like they have plans moving forward with the content. They have muted them on YouTube. So they weren't deleted, most likely. They were just set to private until the company can figure out what they're going to do. And this all follows the recent acquisition of the company by AT&T's Full Screen Media. The acquisition happened earlier this month. A brief history on Machinima: they were founded in 2000, and their YouTube channel started in 2006, which was the first year of YouTube. Over their lifetime, the channel gained over 12 million subscribers. According to Otter Media, which is the entity that operates Full Screen, and this is according to a quote in the article I read from Digital Trends, quote, "It remains focused on working with the Machinima team to create new content that will distributed," they should have written will be distributed, anyway, "will be distributed on new channels over the coming months. In the meantime, the Machinima network of creator channels continues to showcase the talents of the network, as well as this focus on new content. We have pivoted from distributing content to a handful of legacy-operated channels." So we'll find out as time goes in the coming weeks, months, what's to become of all of that content. I know a lot of the content creators that worked for the company, and there were a lot of them that Machinima scooped up along the way. I hear there's quite some controversial goings-ons that happened through the years in that company, actually. A lot of these people suddenly now they don't know what their future is going to be. They weren't given any warning, so that's screwy. But that's the business. So I'd like to talk about some upcoming releases for February. Nobody says it like that, though, but whatever. Let's see. We have Wargroove. Apparently, it's inspired by the Advance Wars franchise, developed by Chucklefish. It's a turn-based tactics game. Apparently, there's a lot of customization, campaign editing. It'll also support a variety of local and online multiplayer modes. It'll be out on Nintendo Switch, PC, Xbox One on February 1st. And the game will be out. It'll be coming to PlayStation 4 at a later date, which has yet to be announced. Next up, we have Ape Out. Players play as a captured ape, beating his way through captors to achieve freedom. It is another rhythmic-based game. It's supposed to have a very artistic look. It's a top-down view. And it says it's been drawing attention since its unveiling at the South by Southwest years ago. I'm not sure how many years ago. But that'll be out on PC February 7th. All right, next up we have Crackdown 3. This one will be coming to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It is carrying on from where 2010's Crackdown 2 left off, though it's arriving 3 years later than the projections all pointed toward. It's a destruction-oriented action-adventure game, which will be coming out for PC and Xbox One on February 15th. Then, oh boy, another Far Cry New Dawn. This one takes place, we covered this actually on a previous episode, but this one will take place a couple decades after the events of Far Cry 5, so it'll probably have a lot of similarities. The engine will be the same. Any of you familiar with Far Cry know it's an open sandbox with some light role-playing elements, usually in some dire situation. Usually involving terrorist organizations. I've played a little bit. I've seen a little bit. It looks like a fun game. It seems like they really crank them out really quickly, so I don't know exactly how consistent they are. Sort of like a Assassin's Creed sort of situation. Got to have a new one every year. So we'll see how that is. That one will be coming out on PC and Xbox One February 15th. February. Jump Force. A bunch of manga characters in a fighting game developed by Spike Chunsoft. A Bandai Namco title. It celebrates the 50th anniversary of Weekly Shonen Jump, which is a Japanese popular culture magazine, for those who don't know. That'll be out for PlayStation 4, PC, and the Xbox One on February 15th. Then we have Metro Exodus, which is the third Metro game in the series, developed by Dmitry Glukovsky, inspired by the Dmitry Glukovsky novels, rather, of the same name. And in this game, you travel the Metro by rail across the continent to the east. The story takes place over the course of a year. It says here the game will provide gamers with a much-needed change in atmosphere and setting. Not sure what that means. That will be out on PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One February 15th as well. Another one is Anthem, another game we've talked about previously. From the studio behind Mass Effect and Dragon Age, as well as Jade Empire. It's an action third-person role-playing shooter with up to 4 players. It's an open world, and you travel in exosuits called javelins. Customizable suits with different abilities and weapons. It says here it's remained to be seen whether or not this IP is meant to be another Fortnite. That'll be due out on PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox February 22nd. And finally, we have Trials Rising. So this franchise started as a browser game in 2000, and it's received a number of games in the franchise, but it's been 5 years since the last major release. So in this game, you control a physics-based motorcycle and a rider, and you navigate different courses. So this is sort of like I've played this before, and I believe we mentioned this one too. It's sort of like an Excitebike stylized 2D with 3D look. That will be out on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PC, Xbox One, so the whole gang's here for this one, February 26th. Now, for some Nintendo news, of course, Nintendo news, because it's me. This is a big blow for a lot of people invested in the or on board the Nintendo train, I should say. I was slightly interested, though. I'm not really hurt by it. But it was recently announced that Metroid Prime 4, the game that was it was a big deal, even though it was only a few seconds they showed the logo at E3 back in 2017. But Metroid Prime 4 has been delayed. It was just announced. So this last Friday, it was announced in a video that Nintendo released with Senior Managing Executive Officer Shinya Takahashi that Nintendo isn't happy with the progress of Prime 4 right now. So Nintendo is, instead of continuing with what they have, they're having Retro Studios basically tear the game down and rebuild it from the ground up. And Takahashi says in the video, quote, "It will be a long road until the next time we will be able to update you on the development progress, and development will be extensive. However, we will continue developing the game so that when it is completed, it will stand shoulder to shoulder with the past Metroid Prime series titles." So again, I haven't been invested in the Metroid franchise for a long time. I've always liked the franchise. I am familiar enough with the Prime series. I played the entirety of Prime 1, thought it was an awesome game, but I didn't get the following ones. I kind of fell out of video games during those years. So I will definitely get the game when, or if, hopefully when, it comes out. Because I think that what they're doing, who knows what the game was looking like as of right now in development, but I think what Nintendo's doing is they're going to go for another killer app. I think they're going to try and do something big again on the scale of Breath of the Wild. Whether it will be on the Switch by the time it comes out, or it will be on whatever Nintendo's next console will be, or if it'll even be a console, who knows. I think they're going to do something big with it. Maybe it'll be a dual console release, the end of the Switch's lifetime, the beginning of whatever is to follow. I don't know. It was a little bit of a disappointment. A little bit. I didn't shed a tear, but I guess I'm going to have to get that out of my mind for a while. Of course, that they actually just announced they're going to bring out I believe they just announced they're going to bring out remasterings, updates of the first 3 Prime games to the Switch. So that'll hold people over, and who knows, maybe we'll get another 2D Metroid game. I always preferred the 2D. I love the 3D, I love the Prime games, but there's something that just only works in 2D with Metroid. It's that closed-in yet large world environment with the progressive item systems where you can access different places. It just works. Maybe I'm just being overly nostalgic, but I still love those types of Metroid games. Well, these single host episodes are going to generally be shorter episodes, and that is where I am going to end it right here. So expect next week, as long as everything goes according to plan, myself and Phantom Outlaw in here doing our whole big thing, and next week's episode is going to be a discussion about movies based on video games, why they suck, why sometimes they kind of suck, or maybe even are good a little bit, why this is so, and some of the reasons. Well, that's why that would be the same thing, wouldn't it? But some of the reasons why this is so, some interesting things that I know I've found out. So everybody be safe out there. Have a good week. And you can check us out. If you listen to us on YouTube, we're also on PodBean. If you're listening to us on PodBean, we're also on YouTube. And that's all you got to search for is Arcade Tirade. So everybody out there, have a good one. Keep playing games and be good. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. All right, we'll see you later.